I really thought this was going to be a week with just 2 podcasts. Of course not. We have an emergency Eagle Eye podcast to start the week on Monday afternoon. Reuben, Frank, and Dave Zangaro. This is Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. Rube, how you doing?
Doing well. I believe this is 3 weeks in a row with 3 podcasts. So I'm not sure that's ever happened before. During training camp, and the season. But as far as the off season goes, this is uncharted waters.
Howie's making sure we have plenty. I guess this is Jeffrey making sure we have plenty to talk about. A contract extension for Nick Sirianni. He was set to enter the final year of his initial contract, a 5-year deal. He was never going to go into a lame duck season. We knew this was going to happen eventually, but it finally does.
Yeah, and it was inevitable. And Jeff Lurie talked about it at the media day. I stood there for an hour figuring out what spot he was going to be in. Nobody really knew, and got up in front and asked the first question about Nick's future. And I think Zach Berman followed up, and he didn't want to say he's going to be here. He didn't want to say we're going to give him an extension, but he all but said it. And he's like, look, he's not going anywhere. So we knew it was coming. Even before that, we knew it was coming. You don't lose a guy like Nick Sirianni. But still, to have it done, to have it signed, sealed, and delivered is really huge. It's huge for the whole franchise. It's huge for the players to know that Nick is signed and under contract for the foreseeable future. And the stability that this franchise has is really remarkable. Howie's been here since 2010 with a little 1-year blip in there in 2015. But it's so important to have that. And they have it on the field. I mean, you look at the offense, we've talked about that, have it in the general manager's chair. The owner's been here for 30 years, and now Nick's not going anywhere. So this is a very stable franchise, and that translates into winning.
Yeah, like you mentioned it, even before the Super Bowl, we knew they were going to extend him. And then after the Super Bowl, at the owners' meetings, Jeffrey Lurie was like, yeah, he's going to be our coach. We'll figure this out. But you're right. It's nice to get it out of the way, even before OTAs. You know, why let it linger into the summer? Just make sure he's locked up long term. We don't know the terms yet of the deal, the years, or the money. I'd assume he's getting a nice little pay bump after the start to his career. It's pretty remarkable. You look at where his name ranks on the all-time coaches list in terms of winning percentage, and he's right up there at the top.
Yeah, he's 5th all time. And the guys ahead of him, one guy coached in the 1920s. And then, 3 Hall of Fame, talking about guys like Paul Brown and John Madden. I mean, it's really incredible.
Vince Lombardi's up there.
Vince Lombardi's up there. I mean, he's in, look, it's not going to stay up that high. It just can't mathematically, I don't think, because you're going to have a down year. Somebody's going to get hurt, whatever it is. You're not going to win 70%. I don't think. Heck, maybe he will. But through 4 years, yeah, the numbers are astonishing. I mean, he's one of only 6 coaches to go to the playoffs in his first 4 seasons, each of his first 4 seasons. One of only 3 to make 2 Super Bowls in his first 4 years. The numbers are amazing. And, you talk about getting him locked up. I mean, his first year, fans wanted him locked up. It was, it just goes to show you that first press conference, who cares? It never mattered. The roots underground, all this stuff people made fun of him for. And look at him now. He's got an incredible body of work, and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think there's this notion that, sometimes it's tough when a coach isn't calling plays. Like, what do they do, right? I think that's like a natural thing, because every time there's a head coaching cycle, you go, well, who are the hot candidates, and why are they the hot candidates? And most of the time, the hot guys, the hot candidates that everyone wants people to hire, are scheme geniuses. They're the guys with the X's and O's, and sometimes that works. It can work, but the Eagles have found that more often than not, you're hiring the person. You're hiring the guy who's going to steer the ship, and they're looking for different things. And they've been so good at this in really Jeffrey's entire time here, but especially the last 2 hires, right? They've found guys that can get the pulse of the locker room, can steer it the right way. And in Nick's case, he doesn't call plays, but man, he means a lot to this team. And I think sometimes we kind of take his contributions for granted because of that.
Yeah. And then you go back, obviously there was a blip in there, but you go back to Andy. So, for 22 of the last 25 years, you've had a coach who led this team to at least one Super Bowl, and one's a Hall of Famer, and the other two won a Super Bowl. So it's a pretty remarkable track record. You can go back to Ray Rhodes, who was Coach of the Year his first year, and kind of it got ugly his third and fourth year. But I guess every coach that Jeff Lurie has ever hired, going back to Ray, has made the playoffs in his first or second year. Most of them their first year, but I totally agree with what you said, and I sometimes those scheme geniuses do work, but I think Nick's strength is clearly, and his run as play caller lasted less than 2 months, and he was smart enough to know that somebody was on the staff who was better at it, Shane Steichen at the time, but he is so good. All the things people laugh at, the core values and the connection and all that stuff, it really means something to the players, and his ability to express why that's important. I thought I muted my phone. I'm sorry. It's huge, and they believe it, and they buy into it, and they want to be a part of it. I think it helps attract free agents. The culture that he's built, I mean, this is a real thing, and it just shows that you don't have to call plays. I mean, was anybody complaining about who was calling plays after they scored 53 points in the NFC Championship game, whatever it was, 55, or after the Super Bowl? They win because Nick has created a place where guys want to play hard, and Howie has certainly a big role in this too, getting the right guys, but they want to play hard. They want to play for him. They want to connect with each other. They want to be a part of this culture. And when you have good players who really believe in the coach and what he's preaching, this is what you get. You get, 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and a championship against a dynasty. So it's been really impressive to watch. And they've had some good coaches here, but what Nick has done is unique and truly remarkable.
Yeah, and the record obviously speaks for itself, but I think the thing that impresses me most about him is that he's been able to overcome adversity. You look at, I mean, we all thought there was a good chance he was getting fired after the 23 season. And look, if Jeffrey Lurie would have fired him, I think we all would have understood that was an epic collapse. But look at the way this team responded this year. He deserves a lot of the credit for that. You'd think back to 2021, that 2-5 start. He has the Roots speech and everyone's making fun of him. Someone's throwing flowers at him as he walks off the field. He responds from that. The team rallies behind him a little bit. So every time he's kind of been faced with any kind of adversity, I think he's responded really well to it. And it's important that he responds to it well because he wants his players to respond to that adversity too. So they have to see it from him first.
Yeah, and that is so important because every team, every player, every coach is going to face adversity. It's an absolute. It's a 100%, whether it's an injury or getting benched or having a bad game or dropping a touchdown pass, whatever it is, you got to, if you don't respond in a positive way, and we've certainly seen that, you're just not going to be here long. So you have to be able to do it. You have to be able to turn the page. And I think he's so good at keeping these guys focused on, it's another cliche, but just the next play, the next meeting, the next rep at practice. And they really are. I mean, it's like they really believe it. They really buy into that. And when you do that, then you don't let the adversity, the drop pass or whatever it is, or the highs, you don't get affected by that. And that's what we've seen from this team. I think a lot of coaches have said the same stuff that he says. They've used the same words about, culture and core values, but there's something about Nick that really gets that message through. And I just think he's so genuine and so believable and so authentic that players, they believe him just naturally. And you can tell when a coach is BSing you. You can tell these are just words to him, but Nick lives it. He breathes it, and they believe and they buy in like 100%. I mean, you don't hear guys in the locker room like, and this is rare. You just don't hear anybody saying, "Well, Nick's lost his mind" or anything. I mean, I remember talking to a bunch of players after I think it was that next day or that day after out in the grass because we weren't allowed in the locker room yet because of COVID, interviewing every player they brought out about the Roots Underground speech. And they like loved it. And they really thought it does make sense. I mean, it was a really good metaphor. And they were all surprised that some people reacted so negatively. And that's just, that's just how authentic his messaging is.
An important correction, not from you, but the narrative around the Roots speech, by the way, when he told it to the team, he said plant. And then when he explained it publicly, he said flowers. And I wonder if he had not used the term flowers and if he used the term plant, if he would have gotten such a negative response.
Well, Robert Plant is the singer of Led Zeppelin, and Brandon Flowers is the singer of Killers. So Zeppelin, Killers, I think that kind of says it all. That made sense before I said it.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think he corrected that, like, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks later when they started winning. He's like, I didn't say flowers. But it was people just were ripping on him for that. I never got that. What he tells his team, he knows best what message to share with his team, and almost always works.
I've always been fascinated by that element of Nick Sirianni, just how much thought goes into the messaging he delivers to his team. And maybe it's because he's more willing to talk about it that I think this about him. But I think I can't know this for sure because only the individual coaches would know. But I would have to think, at least of the coaches I've covered, he takes more time to think about exactly how he's going to deliver that message than any coach that I've been around. And a lot of it is like, in his downtime, walking around his neighborhood with his kids, like he's always constantly thinking about different messages. Like him and I have chatted at times, and I'll say something, I'll be like, I might tell that to the team. Like he's always trying to mine things that he can use in a way to bring to his team. And I think that's kind of unique.
Yeah, and he will talk to anybody, whether it's Jay Wright or Pat Riley, or I mean, he's always talking to coaches, not football coaches necessarily, but just successful coaches. And how do you deal with this? How do you handle this? How do you message this? And he's not too full of himself not to learn from everybody, from every good coach out there. And Tony Dungy and Nick are very close. Guy won a Super Bowl. So I mean, there's so many of these guys. He's always talking about Dawn Staley. It doesn't matter what sport it is. There's something to learn from every successful coach, and he has a way of kind of taking what they tell him and whittling it down to something that's going to be meaningful to his team. And I mean, that's just as important, maybe more important, as what are we going to do here on 3rd and 6? And that's why the whole not calling plays, to me, it's like, it's not a reason to criticize the guy. It's just how he does his job. And other things are more important to him right now. And he's really, really good at those things.
Yeah. And I don't even know if it's like people are criticizing him for not calling plays. I just think he probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, because sometimes his job description is a little harder to pin down at times. Right. But like the job of a head coach, you have to wear a lot of different hats. Like there are a lot of elements to it that aren't as public as calling plays on Sundays, or in this team's case, Mondays, Fridays, Thursdays, whenever they play. I think a lot of those elements are kind of done behind the scenes, but he connects with his players. He hires good coaches. He empowers those coaches. He plays well with the front office that's very stable. Like all of these different elements that kind of get pushed to the side when we talk about coaches, he's really good at.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think he was criticized when he gave up play calling, and because he didn't fit that model that some people have of what an offensive coach is supposed to do and supposed to be. So I think we did hear some of that. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And
yeah, no, we heard it then. I'm just saying, like, I think sometimes now he doesn't get as much credit for the success as he probably deserves, because like it's always Howie's season, and we always credit Howie for bringing the players, and we always credit the players, and they deserve, like, both of those entities deserve all the credit, but there's something about a coach that can take that talent and get the most out of it that's special.
Yeah, and I think their relationship is such a huge thing because I've covered teams where the coach and the GM did not get along, did not work together, did not collaborate, and it's an ugly thing to see. And that was really, I mean, old time football. Like when I started doing this, there was always like friction between the front office and the scouting department. I remember sitting in Andy's office once, and he was like giving me a history lesson about how it was just like an ingrained thing in coaches that they were anti-scouting department and vice versa. And he was determined to change that here. And that process started with Tom Heckert, and Tom and Joe and Andy worked really well together. I remember doing a story on them in Jacksonville in '04, and how that was like really a new thing back then. Like, you didn't have coaches and GM. That's a long-winded way of saying I just think it's huge. And they sit up there and make their dumb jokes at press conferences, but they clearly have a ton of respect for each other. They like each other. They listen to each other, and and they both know what they're doing. So I just think that's huge.
Yeah, it's one of the important relationships in the building. Another one that needed some work was Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. And I don't know if we'll ever fully know the depths of that relationship and where it was and how it got to where it was tenable. But I think it's likely that both sides deserve a lot of credit for being able to repair it to the level where this team wins the Super Bowl and is probably together for a long time.
Yeah, no question about it. There's that little clip of Nick when he's telling Jalen, I guess early in the fourth quarter, he's coming out of the game. He's going to put Kenny in. And Jalen's like, he's like disappointed. He's like bummed. Like at that point, they're up like 40, whatever it was. And he's like, you taking us out? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go with the other guys. Just, go celebrate or whatever. And Nick says, I love you. And Jalen looks at him and says, I love you, man. And like, you think about a year or two ago, here's this team winning a Super Bowl, and the coach, Jalen and Nick, are saying they love each other.
Yeah, it's a long way from like, hey, Jalen, would you like to say anything nice about the head coach? And he's like, I don't know. Yeah, it came a long way.
Yeah, it got a little concerning there. It did.
Yeah, they're obviously two of the biggest leaders of that football team. You need them, even if they're not best friends, you need them to be in lockstep with a lot of the messaging to the team. So I think without knowing everything that happened, I don't know if anyone will ever know everything that happened behind the scenes, but it got to a point where it was at least good enough.
Yeah.
Anything else on Nick? I did want to bring up, I did a really fun story a few years ago. We were talking about how he connects with players. It's one of my favorite stories I've done in recent years, just asking players how Nick tried to connect with them on a personal level, because it'd be really easy for him to say he does this, but I was like, basically, I'm going to call him out. I'm going to go find out. And every single player I spoke with over 20 players for that story. Every single one of them was like, yeah, Nick tries to talk to me about this or that. It's like, we're from the same hometown, or we know the same, like, I think one of them was like a Phillip Rivers connection or Mount Union connection, or all these different things. He seeks that out, kind of like anyone, right? Like if I'm trying to talk to a player, I want to be able to talk to him about something he cares about. It's the same thing that Nick Sirianni does, but he does it really well.
Yeah, he connects with me over track because his dad was a track coach for like 35 years up in upstate New York. And his specialty was the triple jump. He was like Northwest New York's leading triple jump coach. So, 80% of our conversations are about the triple jump. So
that sounds like a nightmare to me.
Hey, at least we're connecting.
Yeah, but it is true. It's there's a lot of things he's good at. That doesn't mean he's without flaw. We've seen the flaws, right? Whether he's yelling at a fan where he has to like kind of apologize for it. I think his temperament at times isn't great, but it's genuine, it's authentic, and I think the Eagles are at the point where they'll deal with it. I think there was some legitimate concern about that, even from Jeffrey Lurie, but I think you take the little bit of bad with a lot of the good.
And I think the players like that stuff. They like seeing him fiery. They like seeing him showing that emotion and yelling at people, whatever it is, fans from other. I think that's something that brings him closer to the players. Not that it's always a good thing to do, but I don't think it hurts.
Yeah, I mean they're and look, he leaves himself open to be the butt of jokes sometimes. I get that. Like there are some bad looks, yelling at a fan, getting in a verbal tiff with Zach Ertz, leaving the field, shaving his head in the middle of the season, making it look like he's having some kind of a breakdown. Like there are a lot of things that Nick does that are either a little goofy or easy to make fun of, but he's been the right coach for this team, and he's going to be their coach going forward for, I would think, at least several more seasons.
Yeah, and look, they're going to be good. I mean, they have good players. They have a great GM, and they have a coach who's done things that very few coaches have done. So, at some point you feel like they're going to go 7-10. It could happen, but I mean, no team's good every year. Well, Steelers have been. I don't know about this year, but it's rare. The Patriots had a run, but I think they're capable. I think that everything's in place for them to keep reeling off 10, 11, 12, 13-win seasons, and I don't think it's going to stop.
Yeah, they're set up for a lot of success. Any other words on Nick Sirianni, or can we take a quick break and then I want to hit Joe Douglas talk real quick on the other side?
Yeah. You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and NissanUSA.com today.
We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, Rube, but since we're already sitting down talking about Nick Sirianni, the other bit of news on Monday, we can get even deeper into it on our regularly scheduled podcast, but Joe Douglas back in Philadelphia in the Eagles scouting department. Not a surprise here.
Not a surprise. Fired by the Jets in the middle of the season, I guess late November on their bye week. Obviously, he and Howie are close. You mentioned that they were hanging out together before the Steelers game at the Link, which was a few weeks after he got fired by the Jets. They have a good relationship. Joe was here. Wasn't here all that long, 3 years. But look, with all the people that they've lost, especially Anthony Patch, I mean, it's and you look at the front
Brandon
office.
Hunt, another big one.
Brandon Hunt. The front office has been decimated. So to have a guy who knows how you think and knows what you like in players, and Howie's always really trusted Joe's judgment as far as player evaluations, it's good to have him back. Yeah, it didn't go well for Joe up in New York, but it doesn't really go well for anybody up there. It's not really a atmosphere conducive to succeeding. Haven't been in the playoffs since 2010, and he comes in, tries to fix it, what might be unfixable. But look, they won a Super Bowl with him here. He won 2 in Baltimore, and I think it's a good addition.
Yeah, you're just trying to stock the pipeline again. You lose some talent, you bring some talent in. And yeah, I mean, Joe's not perfect. He's made some bad picks. It wasn't like the picks they made when he was here were great. There were some low points there, but respected football guy from the scouting world, worked his way up under some really great people like Ozzie Newsome in particular. So you bring him back. He's no longer the GM. You have a couple of former GMs now in that scouting department. I think that's valuable, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Like you look at their draft record when he was here. I mean, it was, Jay Jaw, Derek Barnett, Dillard, those guys.
Some good ones. I mean, you had the 2018 class was when he was here too, and that's one of the best.
Yeah, Goddard, Josh Sweat. He was here when Miles Sanders got drafted, who was really good while he was here. But yeah, it was a mixed bag. But obviously, Howie has final call on those two. Joe played the game. He was a 4-year starter at Richmond on the O-line. So yeah, I think there's going to be more hires in that department, and Howie hasn't really. He loves bringing back players who used to be here, including Matt Pryor, who was in that 2018 draft. But has he done it with scouts? I don't remember anybody coming back. before. Maybe you can remember someone, but I like the move. I think it's
Well, Patch did, right?
Oh, he was gone.
He was gone in 15.
Briefly in 15. Yeah. Yeah. So I like it. I like Joe. I think he knows his stuff, and it's definitely a plus.
Yeah, it's like for me, it's a why not.
Sure.
Yeah, and he's the guy. Like things went pretty poorly with the Jets. I don't know if he can work his way back up and get another GM job. So he might be here for a while.
He's still a young guy. Still, I think 40, mid 40s, 48, I believe. So it's possible. You're here as GM. You have like 3 winning seasons and another Super Bowl, and next thing you know, you're in demand again. So I don't get ahead of ourselves here, but I think he has a chance.
Joe will be happy to hear that.
I'm sure he will.
He's got a chance. All right. This was an emergency pod. We're not going to do questions today. We'll do some on our normal Tuesday pod, but I will remind everyone, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, if you appreciate that we hopped on here for an emergency one, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We'll be back with you for the regular ones, Tuesday and Thursday. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been an emergency Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.